In a parallel universe, in the 1980s, a dystopian BBC lacks the funds for both EastEnders and Doctor Who. The two are merged into one show, Dr. Oi. Dr. Oi. Oi, 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 oi,
So, you'll never guess who I had in the back of my TARDIS last week. Only some geezer from Gallifrey, and he was giving it all that about some trouble going on in Scarrow Street and how he wanted me to go down there and sort it out. And I'm like, oi, Time Lord, I'm clocking off soon. I've done 3 round trips to Jupiter already and I fancy winding down at the squash club and top up my tan. But he was having none of it. He'd been down Covent Garden earlier and picked up a teleportation ring called a time ring. He said if things get a bit tasty, I could always activate the ring and get back to my TARDIS. I said leave it out, but I didn't want to ruffle his feathers. Those Time Lords will do you in if you look sideways at them wrong. Best to play along. Besides, I know how to handle myself, don't I? On Scarrow Street, it turns out there's a long-running turf war between the Fowl Curry House and the Khalid Kebab Shop. On top of that, there was a gang called the Mutos, made up of kids who didn't want to take either side. You had the Towels in their curry house, and the Khalids in their kebab shop, and the streets were empty because of the hostilities. Bad for business. So I said, yeah, all right, son, I'll go down there, have a natter, knock some heads together and Bob's your auntie. But, in case it gets tasty, I'm bringing my mates, Sarah and Harry. They can be handy if you know what I mean. To tell you the truth, I was a bit nervous about Big Dave Davros at the kebab shop. Had a bit of a reputation, didn't he? Well, this is how things went down. So we roll up on Scarrow Street and straight away it's kicking off. Only a gang fight. Best stay out this one, I tell Harry. And when I turn to Sarah, she's not there. Well, it was chaos, claret everywhere. Turns out she ducked down an alleyway and got chatting with some of them mutos. Nice enough lads, but the towels capture them all. Same old story you've heard 1,000 times before. They're all forced to load radioactive material on a missile. And as for me and Harry, well, the Khalid surrounded us and relieved me of my teleportation ring. Handy. So I gave them a bit of math, didn't I? And they say, it's time Harry and Dr. Roy get introduced to Big Dave Davros. They won't be so lippy then. Harry was wetting himself, but I wasn't going to give them the satisfaction. I'm old school, me. I always wee on the inside. So, it turns out Big Dave Davros is running a meth lab, and he's giving it all that about his new robotic lab workers. What with Brexit and all that, he's been building workers who don't need visas. Daleks. Dave is doing the big I am. Lads, he says, check out my Daleks. They're only Mark III, so don't be expecting arms, legs or fingers, but apart from that, I think they could test product with their vacuum nozzle ooters. But then old Ronson pipes up. Didn't think he had the minerals. He says, oi, Davros, son, leave it out. We sell shish kebab. Doner with garlic sauce and chili peppers, son. I don't want none of this meth. The Rozzers will be on us in no time. Shut us down. But Big Dave says, oi, shut your disgusting little pie hole. Daleks are the future, not chicken burger salad, son. Andy says, I got plans to take out the towels, ain't I? He says, go on, Dalek number 1, show 'em. Well, I kid you not, this Dalek pulls a sheet off the lamb kebab turntable only to reveal a missile launcher. And so I say, all right, son, calm down. I think you and me need to have a quiet word. You can't go nuking your next door neighbour. It ain't the East End way. Ronson and his mates saw it as a chance to turn the tables on Davros. Well, Big Dave was outnumbered and outclassed. Well, I thought that was that. I thought I'd be home in time for a margarita and a rerun of the Sweeney. But no. Davros only goes across to the curry house and makes a meth deal with them, sneaky little toe rag. Tells them about a cellar entrance to the kebab shop. They swarm in the kebab shop, giving us grief while Big Dave continues making Daleks on the curry house premises. Oi, mate, I says, you need a licence for that. Then the cheeky sod creeps back into the vandalised kebabery and starts telling Porkies how it was Ronson what squealed to the towels about a cellar entrance. He takes him out, and I don't mean for a Chinese. He says he's programmed the Daleks across the road to turn on the towels who, lacking a staircase, will have nowhere to run and hide. Well, it was a bloodbath, and any towel survivors or remaining mutos walked over to the kebab shop. It was about to go down. So I gave them the lowdown on the weak spots to attack. I wanted the distraction to give me a chance to get my ring back off Big Dave. I needed to get back to the TARDIS sharpish. I'd parked it in a 2-hour parking bay, you see. So I make my way back to the kebab shop meth lab and I confront Davros. I tell him how his Daleks, in the future, not content with running the whole East End, set their sights a bit further and running the whole bloomin' universe. Davros is well up for it and tells me to give him a list of fixable Dalek weaknesses that I know about, having come from the future, see? Improvements to Daleks, I say. How about you start with some flaming hands and fingers? What a novice. Well, there's a big crowd of mutos come barging in, Big Dave Scarpers, and I set up the wiring to blow up the Daleks. Used to be a lecky, didn't I? Not bad with boilers either, but that's another story. And then it hits me, these Daleks. All right, they're not proper Londoners like you or me, but do I have the right to execute them? Next thing I know, Big Dave's back down. Says he won't deal meth without planning permission. Everyone's going to pop across to the boozer, have a vote on it. So I put the wiring down and I grabbed a special brew. So the mutos, Tals and Khalids all go down the King's Head for a natter about whether the street should really be dealing meth. Big Dave says anyone against the idea should go into the snug room. Loads of lads crowd in there. Suddenly, a swarm of Daleks only come in and shoot up the snug. A gangland killing. The Daleks seem to enjoy their work, lasering humans with their nozzle hooters. Maybe a bit too much. I don't know why I brought Harry and Sarah with me to the job. They were about as handy as a ding-dong Joanna in a library. So I says, fine, I'll handle this myself. So I go back to the meth lab to finish the wiring job when I see a Dalek having a crack at it. He's trying to dismantle my bomb. So I said, oi, that's my job. Just because you charge half the fee, you can't just roll up and do all my lecky work. I cost a lot, yeah, but that's because I got certified in NVQ engineering, level 3. Well, I would have gone on in his ear hole, except that 1, he triggered the bomb and the whole place lit up like a fireworks show, and 2, Daleks don't have proper ears, do they? I yelled, you should have used a Phillips 2mm sonic screwdriver, you novice. Anyway, Sarah rolls up. Oi, Doctor, the mutos and Tals are going to demolish the whole bloomin' kebabery. You best get your ring and get me and Harry back to the TARDIS.
The ring!
Big Dave's got it, I said. He's probably with his remaining Daleks down the King's Head. Handy? I fancied a shandy anyway. So I go across to the King's Head, find Davros tapping away, reprogramming his Daleks. He doesn't see me come up from behind and glass him with a mocktail. Oi, Davros, you muppet! I want my ring back. I tear it off his grubby little fingers and press the recall button. Sayonara, old son. Well, from what I heard, the Daleks weren't too impressed at how easily I'd handled Big Dave. They said he wasn't hard enough to be running their gang. No idea what happened after that, but happy days. So, to celebrate, I ordered a pizza for me, Harry and Sarah, and got my Stellar 8-pack out the fridge. Sorted!
Oi, oi, oi.